What is up, everybody? Welcome to another fresh take. I got with me Sandstorm. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I got peanut butter in my mouth.
Okay, so we are going to be talking about Spider-Man: No Way Home. And here's how we're going to do this. So, because we know it just came out Friday or Thursday, depending on when you went to go see it, we're going to break this little discussion up into two parts. The first part is going to be non-spoiler. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds. Then we're gonna go into spoiler territory. All right. So the first part of the discussion will be we're not gonna say anything spoilery. We're just gonna talk about the general stuff. And then if you want to stick around, I'm gonna give it a 30-second countdown. And then we're going to go into spoiler territory. So hopefully everybody is cool with that. Because I don't want to hear you spoiled it.
I already told you.
Yeah.
It's too
So
late now.
so you're gonna know that I'm gonna do the whole 30-second countdown thing that I normally have at the beginning of our videos. It's gonna be I'm gonna say, all right, we're about to go into spoiler territory. I'm gonna hit it so we can do the 30-second countdown so you can leave. And then when you watch the movie, you can come back and let us know what you thought. But first of all, I'm gonna let Sandstorm start this one off. So what are some of the things that you like non-spoiler, of course?
I liked first off, I liked the fact that before the movie they had all three of them, the main cast, Tom Holland, I forgot the other two his names, but they're basically like, don't spoil this movie. And then Jamie Foxx shows up and he's like, yeah, don't spoil the movie. And they're
Yeah, that
like,
was funny.
um, no, I like the overall tone of this. I don't think it's a spoiler, but it starts off right where No Way Home ends off. So I think
You
it
mean
was
Far From
good.
Home? You
Or
mean
Far
Far
From
From Home?
Home.
Yeah.
Far From No Way Home is what we're watching.
Yeah.
Um,
It's one of those situations where you cannot be late for this movie because it
mhm.
literally picks up 15 seconds after Far From Home ends.
Yep, yep. And that was
Literally.
and that was nice because like that's kind of how we left off. And then we had questions and everything like, oh snaps, like what is about to happen with this man's life. Um, and so like to pick up right from there, that was really good. I love the pacing of the movie. The pacing was excellent.
Yeah.
This was pacing wise. This was it didn't really. There was no down points really. There wasn't really any down points. The fight scenes and everything. It was a solid overall movie. I definitely. I'm sure we'll get to that to the end, but it was definitely a really solid movie. As far as Spider-Man, it definitely I would personally say it was a lot better than Far From Home. So
Yeah. Okay. Me personally, I did like the pacing. I did like the fact that like we don't have to get a recap because it literally starts right where it ends. So that's hey, this movie starts right where it ends. So right where Far From Home ends. So you get to see a peek into what happens when your identity is basically put on blast for the world to see and you're a superhero and how that affects everybody around them. I thought
mhm.
they did a very good job of doing that because you got to remember Peter is still supposedly 17. I think people
Right,
don't realize this. Like in terms of the film, yeah, he got blipped out for 5 years, but he's still technically 17.
right.
So that's a lot to have to deal with. Trying to get into school, trying to you know still do the right thing. People now know that you're a super because there's one sequence in the beginning where, like I said, it starts right where it starts off. He goes to get MJ, and somebody actually tries to jump and catch. You saw that?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, what the? But it makes sense because in the culture we're in now, where people be acting, I'm like, I'm surprised he had to fight people.
I mean, you seen the. This is not a spoiler either, but you seen the girl who like tried to like grab him, and
Yeah,
then she was like, "See, Spider-Man hit me. Spider-Man hit. Did you catch that? Did you
yeah.
catch
And I'm
that?"
like, they did a real good job of doing that because he's like, dude, trust me, if he would have hit you, you would have went flying.
Right.
So
And
he did
she
hit
was a
you.
big girl.
Yeah. So I liked how they did that. And the one thing, as a comic book head, they took one of the worst Spider-Man stories in the comics and made it work. They took One More Day, which is any Spider-Man comic book fan or any Marvel comic book fan will tell you that is hands down the worst story they ever did. They found a way to make it work within the MCU, and for that, I got to give them kudos, the writing team kudos, just for that. Because I was like, how y'all gonna fix? I'm like, I know what y'all doing, but that whole story sucked. They found a way to make it work, and for that, I got to give them props. I like the fact of the setup and stuff with Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I thought it was good. Even though I thought they were going to go in the whole mentorship thing with Strange and Peter. I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they just didn't do that.
Yeah,
like we don't need to do that.
right.
We got to see our first real two superhero fights. Like in the comics, you see that all the time. We actually got to see one in this one, and it ain't spoiling because it's in the trailer. You actually see the start of it in the trailer. So it's actually it's well choreographed, but it actually what happens when he has to fight against somebody that's a master of the mystical arts. That was actually a pretty cool fight. I did not see this in 3D, so I'm betting that whole sequence in 3D was off the chain.
I got to see it at IMAX, and I thought it was IMAX 3D, and apparently
it was just
I
IMAX.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's not a thing here in my city anymore. I mean, it's still got the 3D screen, but I don't know if they paid extra to not have the IMAX or haven't paid extra.
Well, where I live at, like they have, it's like 3D, IMAX, and IMAX 3D. So you have three you have to choose from. So you have to make sure you pick the right one.
I'd love to go to. Maybe I'll take the kids if I can do that in a bigger city.
Yeah, because the thing is, normally I don't go to IMAX 3D unless I know the movie good. Like because I'm not spending that much money for no BS. I'm not.
It's gotta be fire. It's gotta be high budget.
Like I can't go. Usually I've already seen the movie once before I go to IMAX 3D. Like I'll pay for regular IMAX, but IMAX 3D is just a little bit too much for me to be guessing. So
I'm gonna be mad if I'm out of pocket.
Yeah. I will walk out and demand a refund. But I love the pacing. By now you already know the actors. You've seen enough MCU movies. I can't stand when people complain about the jokes in the Marvel. I'm like, you know they're gonna joke.
Right.
You know they're going to. So why is that a negative? At this point, how many films have you watched? You know that's what they're gonna do.
I'm sorry. I like the jokes. I always think the jokes are good. They're cleverly written. They're not.
I don't, because they don't. To me, they don't go overboard with it.
Yeah.
They stay within how they need to be. Because in this movie, especially, I think the balanced writing was amazing. Because there are points where the jokes stop. Like that whole third act, which we're going to get into in the spoiler side, the jokes stop. Like it really stops. Like to the point where you're just like, oh, okay, y'all not playing no more. Like this,
like it's real serious.
Yeah, like this is getting serious. Like there's one thing that happens that's kind of funny, I guess, but other than that whole third act was straight up serious. The whole entirety of it, like it stopped being lighthearted. Okay, we comical trying to help it. Nah, it got real quick. So, and by now, I don't think it's a spoiler to say because everybody knows Jamie Foxx, Alfred Molina, and Willem Dafoe shows back up. I wanted to ask you, after watching Willem Dafoe again, and once again, Willem Dafoe, and especially Jamie Foxx, Willem Dafoe's Norman Osborn is somebody I'm like, dude, the MCU needs him badly.
Yeah,
they badly need him.
Yeah, and it sucks because he's not and Peter Parker, this Peter Parker's timeline is not.
Yeah, he's not there. Osborn isn't there. Well, we don't know if he's there or not. We haven't seen him. We'll just leave it at that.
Oscorp isn't a thing. Well, we haven't seen the Oscorp building, so
yeah, we haven't. But for like Jamie Foxx, the way they did him in this one erases all that BS in the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
Mm-hmm.
like I was telling you the other day, I'm like, dude, the way they had him just like be himself, you could tell Jamie Foxx was having fun.
Yeah, yeah. He didn't. It wasn't the. And okay, so the the thing I like about the new Marvel, especially with their villains and stuff, I've told you this before, Jay, is that they make them like bad people, legitimate, with the exception of Thanos, because there was a whole larger motive to that.
Yeah,
Like villains in these movies are villains because they're bad, and that was a problem that I always like. My big gripe about the previous Spider-Mans is that they always tried to make you feel sympathetic to a villain's the reason why a villain was a villain, and I feel like and Jamie Foxx's was one of the worst. Like
yeah.
I feel like,
It was just
well,
weird.
yeah, like he they made him awkward and it wasn't the right tone for him. So to come back in this one and like you said, be like Jamie Foxx, like an actual like a real way that he acts, and be a villain, like it he definitely they definitely did justice by him and Electro, who he plays as.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: do you think that because the whole big thing about Sony's side of the MCU was Sony's Spider-Man stuff was they were trying to build toward the Sinister Six,
Hmm.
and my thing is, I'm like, being 100% fair and honest, the Amazing Spider-Man, those two movies sucked. I feel bad for Andrew Garfield, but they was horrible. They were badly written. I don't know what the hell Sony was thinking, and like the MCU's writers have done a better job, whether you like them or not. They've done a better job, in my opinion, of consistently keeping their story consistent among the Spider-Man
Hmm.
stuff. Would you
Hmm.
like to see like those characters come back, but with the MCU writers?
I could I could dig it. You know, it's like it's interesting because they all. I mean, if you think about the way that they all three of them portrayed Spider-Man, I honestly like Tom Holland's the best because
Mhm.
he's the portrayal of a nerdy kid, but not, but like the real sense of like a nerd, not like a geek or a loser or anything like that. Just somebody who's real passionate about, something.
Yeah.
Um,
And he's not so
and
socially awkward where he doesn't have friends.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like he's got friends, he's got his own special handshake, all that. Like he's a today's day nerd, but he's like he still makes mistakes as like a kid. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like they're I won't say childish mistakes, but they're like mistakes that like somebody who wouldn't really think through would make. And I think that's the difference between like how Andrew Garfield played his role or how it was written, and even Toby Maguire's role was kind of written to be like, well, Toby Maguire, we were in the early 2000s, like
yeah,
being a nerd and stuff like that, and casting that into a movie, you had to be like real awkward and weird and all this other stuff. It was a 2000s thing.
yeah, yeah.
But like I said, I think the way that they all portrayed them, I like Tom Holland's the best. And I think if Marvel could do that, could give that same attention to either one, Andrew Garfield, who I always felt like was like the cool Spider-Man, because it's
It's
Andrew
Andrew
Garfield.
Garfield, man. Yeah, it's Andrew Garfield.
Yeah,
That's
his hair's just
why
too
I
slick.
would love for him to get another shot because I just think those movies were just bad. They were just
Yeah,
badly written. I mean, it
yeah.
wasn't him. He was doing the best he could with
Hmm.
with what was
He
given him.
got he got what he could work with.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like the fact that they made him a stalker because that's basically what they did. Like,
Hmm.
now I will say this: out of all the Spider-Man movies, I hated what the MCU's take on Flash Thompson. That boy is not a bully. I,
Yeah, I don't like
Tom
it either.
Revolari's his version. I'm like, that ain't Flash. That is
I
not
don't like it
Flash.
either.
I'm like, it's just that now. If I had one thing I don't like about this movie is him. I can't stand that character. I can't
Mm-hmm.
stand what they've done to that character. I don't know why they've made him like that. I don't know if that's something because look, I was in school in the '90s, so me being in school how it was when I was in school is way different from what it is now. So maybe that is
Right.
how bullies are now. I don't know, but that character, like I like what they did with Flash and the Amazing Spider-Man because that Flash was more like Flash. Like yeah, he was a
Yeah.
bully, but
Yeah.
he wasn't. He
The other
wasn't.
one wasn't bad either. The Tobey Maguire Flash
Yeah,
wasn't.
he wasn't bad either, but they never gave him a chance to be like he only had like the one movie, the first one,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
it. But like the one from and the Amazing Spider-Man, he was in both of them. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that was probably the best iteration of Flash, in my opinion, because yes, he was a bully, but they gave you a reason why he was like that, and he was actually a Spider-Man fan, but it wasn't crazy fan.
Right.
You know, the way they
Right.
play. That's why I was like, that was the best version of Flash. But I just don't. If I had one thing I didn't like, it's that. But he's been consistently bad to me across all three of these movies. I just don't like
Right.
what they did with that character because that character becomes real cool in the comics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, that dude is not gonna ever be cool at no point. He's like comic relief, the way they done him.
Yeah.
He's like a sniveling comic relief. But action wise, great. Story wise, I like the story. Like I said, they took one of the worst written events in all of comics and they made it work.
Mm-hmm.
You get props for that just for being able to pull that off, in my opinion, because that's just like how in the world did they do that? All right, people, we've come to that point. So before we get into spoiler territory, what would you say you would say overall? Would you give this like a full price, or matinee, or what?
Oh man, absolutely. If you don't go see this at IMAX, like there's something wrong with you. And it's funny because my both my wife and my stepson weren't too happy about going to see IMAX just because it's not loungy and all that other stuff. And I get it. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people who really need to be in a lane or sleeping position in order to watch a movie. But uh, but I this movie, it's top three for me. Like it's definitely in the top three of best Marvel movies that they've had out so far. And obviously you're gonna find out why because we're gonna get in spoilers
Yeah,
in a
you're gonna
minute.
find out in a minute. You're gonna find out in about 15 more seconds. So me, full price, go watch it. It's worth it. Fortunately for me, like the theater I went to, I went early in the morning, so wasn't nobody in there, so I could actually have some peace and quiet while I watched the film. I'm pretty sure if you go during the afternoon, because they've been making money, so I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure it's packed in some places. But I would say it's worth going to going to the theater for. With that being said, we're about to go into spoiler territory. So when we come back from this 30 seconds, all bets are off. If you still here, it ain't my fault. See you in 30. Okay, you still here? All right, then. So you don't have a problem with that. All right. So first thing we got to talk about is the cameo we got to talk about with off the rip.
Can we
Daredevil.
wait? Can we hit the origin, the first point before we hit the point of this cameo that we got?
Okay, you started going. You bring it up then.
Okay, because this was a double whammy,
Okay.
and Disney was really they were off the chain for how they set this cameo up. So
And pulled it off.
yeah, and pulled it off because this mind you, we have been a lot of us. I would say the vocal majority have been asking for uh, some sort of inclusion with the other shows that have been going on, but all of that has kind of been silent. Um, we get into episode 5 of Hawkeye, and we are watching this, and mind you, most of us watch this on Wednesday. Me, I actually watched this on Thursday. My birthday was on Friday. Spider-Man came out on Friday for me. So to watch that and go into the end, this is spoilers. So I hope you know. Like, if you didn't watch Hawkeye, then you're just about to get spoiled on that one.
Yeah.
We find out that the big villain on that is Kingpin, but not just any Kingpin. It's what's it? How do you say
Vincent
his name?
D'Onofrio's Kingpin.
Yeah, the Daredevil version, the Netflix Daredevil version of Kingpin. I get up out of my chair. I'm out of my chair. My wife is like, "Is that supposed to be somebody I know?" I'm like, "Absolutely! Oh my god!"
Yeah. He's
Netflix
one of
version. Oh my gosh!
he's
So I'm
one of the
going
most
crazy.
badass villains in all of Marvel.
Oh, I'm going crazy, man. This is absolutely absurd. They were nice enough to give this man his job back and bring him in. So I'm like, okay, that's what's up. We get into Spider-Man, and everything happens. Every people are knowing about him being Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and everything. He has to go to jail. They're trying to get extra information about the Tony Stark bots and everything because he's been accused, and it really does look like he's guilty for everything. So they hire a lawyer, and guess who the lawyer is? OMG. I had to get up out of my seat. I was like, hallelujah, it's gonna happen.
And then
Yeah.
they make sure to let everybody know, not this ain't no other Daredevil. This is the Daredevil because
Yeah.
the catch.
Yeah,
like,
he
okay. I'm like, alrighty. So you letting everybody know that this is in, like, all right, cool. Because one of the big things about that whole Netflix and their other TV shows was they kept saying it's all connected, and it kind of wasn't. Now they're fixing that by saying yes, it was.
Yep.
Yes, it was. It was all connected all along. And here's the first reason. Here's how we're going to show you. You watch Hawkeye, and Thursday you go watch Spider-Man and tell us if we don't know what we're doing. Because that's pretty much how it happened. You watch Hawkeye on Wednesday, and you go into Spider-Man on Thursday. You were like, "What the hell?" But Charlie Cox shows up as Matt Murdock, his Spidey's lawyer, who is his lawyer in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
If people that don't know that. Now, the other thing that I liked, and I think that needs to be talked about, I love how they brought in the other villains from the other films. And I also like how they brought in the other Spider-Man. Now, you don't see Toby and Andrew Garfield till the damn near end of the movie. They don't show up to the third act. But they were there. That was the whole point. They were there the whole time. They didn't know where they were. So they were just trying to get their bearings because it's not their universe.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting that when he finds out that all of them, they die fighting their particular Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And so the whole crux of the movie is Peter's trying to, the 616 Peter is trying to save them. He figures out how to save 2 of them, but he ain't never met Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
And that is where I was like, okay, now I see why you had to get Willem Dafoe. Because I'm sorry, Willem Dafoe, yes, he's 66, but man, he still got it.
He looked the same age. And it's crazy. I almost feel like he played this Green Goblin better than, like, he played Green Goblin in the Tobey Maguire amazingly.
Yeah.
But, like, man, the way they portrayed him, they didn't miss a beat.
Yeah, because they played his whole schizophrenia well, with like him being like, okay, and him being a scientist trying to figure stuff out and actually helping, because he does make the serum to actually kind of counteract his other side. But his other side did it on purpose just to get close enough to get what he needed, the tech he needed. I'm like, yeah, Peter, you don't know nothing about Norman. Because if Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker had showed up earlier, that would have never happened.
Yeah, he would have been like,
Yeah.
You sit in that corner.
Yeah, basically. Now we do have to talk about the death in here that it caught me off guard for a moment, but then I'm like, I understand why they did it, and that is them killing Aunt May. Because Aunt May does the with great power comes great responsibility line.
Yeah, that was
Now
a hard to swallow.
that was but the thing was, and I had to go back and watch Civil War. Yes, Uncle Ben does die. Peter's Uncle Ben did die, but they didn't say how. It was just in Civil War. It was just a one-off line when he was talking to Tony. So them doing it with May makes sense, and that's why I said like the whole tone of the movie actually kind of changes in that third act, because one, Peter gets his ass towed up by Norman Osborn hauls off and tears off in his behind. And so much so to the point that like it's really kind of hard to watch because you're seeing like Peter, he's just beating him.
Yeah, he's getting worked.
Yeah, like beating him bad. And then so he's like, okay, like you won't fight me for real, because he knew he was holding back. Because I'm guessing since he had fought the Tobey Maguire Peter, he's like, I know how strong y'all are. Why you ain't fighting me? Oh, so you ain't fighting me because of her? You trying to save me? Okay, I know how to fix this. And he pretty much bludgeons her with the freaking ran her with the glider.
Yeah.
Now that's when we get the sequence where we now get to meet Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. Garfield.
Hold on. So real quickly, because I literally just thought of this now. What's interesting is that in a similar way, well, one, all three of the versions of Peter Parker, it was somebody who was obviously close to them. But two, it was right before, their significant person was right during a time of regret. With Tobey Maguire, regretting what he said to Uncle Ben. Same with Andrew Garfield, and even with Tom Holland, he was like, "This wasn't my fight. Like, I regret doing this. This was the wrong decision." And May was like, "No, this was
the right.
This was the right one."
Because the thing was, he did save Doc Ock. Because the whole thing, because if you go back and watch Spider-Man 2, the only reason why Doc Ock went crazy because the chip fried. It broke, and he couldn't get the thing out to fix it. So once Peter fixed it, that's the one he needed. And like Flint just wanted to go home to get to his daughter, because at the end of Spider-Man 3, Sandman was a good guy anyway. So he didn't mind going back. He's the one that did. That's why when they said they all died, I'm like, nah, Sandman didn't die.
Yeah, he was the only one who didn't die.
Yeah, he's the only one who didn't. The thing about Jamie Foxx's character, he just didn't want to lose his power, because now he finally felt like he was somebody. Because if you go back and watch Amazing Spider-Man 2, they did him wrong in that movie. So I understand where he was coming from. The only one that was really batshit crazy was Norman Osborn, but that was what needed to happen. Lizard, can I be honest with you? I've never liked Lethal Lizard.
Yeah,
I've always thought that character was stupid.
I wasn't a huge fan. I wasn't a fan of. Was he voiced by Liam Neeson in this?
No, it was Reese Ifans. Because at first it didn't sound like Reese Ifans, but then when they when they revealed, because I didn't think they had him back, but at the end of the movie when they healed him, I'm like, damn, they did have him back. They had him and Thomas Hayden Church back, but like during the film, for the majority, like Flint was full on Sandman for the majority of the movie.
All the way up to the end.
Yeah, all the way up to the end. Now, I will say this: when they did do the death, I understood the rage part that Peter had. I just felt like I felt like some of the I kind of felt like that one kind of thing kind of dragged a little bit, but I was actually kind of glad that they had Tobey and Andrew Garfield there to tell their sides of it, so they can actually kind of like, give some guidance to them. So
because that's what really made them like connect on that level at that point.
And can we one time for Andrew Garfield, because they pretty much kept saying he had the horrible movies.
Yeah.
They really did.
Yo, two times for him stepping in and doing it right the Marvel way when they were trying to make him funny and like he was actually legitimately funny.
Yeah, he was legitimately funny. Like, yeah,
walk across the wall, he's like,
yeah. Like he didn't want to do it. He's like, I'm sticking to, like he's actually sticking on the wall, and they're like, nah, I don't believe you, Spider-Man. Like, jeez. But see, that's what I'm saying. Like some of that stuff was actually working. Like the part where they was actually talking about Tobey Maguire not having web shooters, and they were like, and he didn't want to talk about it. And he was like,
hilarious.
But how does it come out? Look, we can't do that. We just want to know. Like, you ever have web blockage? I was like, bruh, phrasing, man, phrasing.
He said, is there anywhere else that?
Yeah. So that kind of stuff, and that kind of, once again, if you're mad about that, I don't know what to tell you. I'm like, you haven't seen all these Marvel movies. They do stuff like that in all of them. But like I said, that's probably like the only part during that third act where it's like that, because the majority of the third act is very serious.
Yeah.
Because the ending of the film, they have to, the only way to stop the multiverses from crashing is to wipe out everybody's memory of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. That's the only way to fix everything.
Right.
Which means MJ has to forget, Ned has to forget, everybody has to forget, even Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Now
he meets up with Happy. Happy.
Yeah, and Happy doesn't even know him.
No. Happy knows Spider-Man,
but he doesn't know Pete.
But he doesn't know Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And Peter even has a line like, he's like, oh, how did you know Aunt May? Which is crazy because it's Aunt May. Yeah. If he knew May, you would think he would know.
He would know Peter. Yeah.
That's how strong the spell was. And he's like, I'm just a friend of Spider-Man. And like, Happy doesn't even flinch at that. Like, how do you know Spider-Man?
That's one of the things about, like I said, it makes sense. And it's interesting to see where they're gonna go with this, because at one point this does feel like the final movie for Spider-Man in the MCU, but then you're like, nah, this ain't.
Yeah, because it pays so much homage, but it's like,
nah, this ain't, because you got to rectify this. Because even in the comics, even though it was the worst thing they did, they actually retconned the entire thing. They go back and retcon it. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do now. Now there's one panel in the film, and they're going to zoom in on it. So if you go to the movie at the end where Strange is trying to fix everything while Tom Holland is fighting Willem Dafoe, there's a scene where they zoom in on one of the cracks. One of the cracks, I finally figured out what it was. I was wrong. It was Kraven, Rhino, and the guy in the wheelchair was Alistair Smythe. So there's the outline of somebody that looks like they're in a wheelchair, and I'm like, that's Alistair Smythe. There's a guy that's standing with it looks like he's standing with Spear, that's Kraven. And then they have somebody that looks like Rhino in the actual suit, not the robotic suit, but the actual thing with Rhino suit. So those are the ones that I saw. Somebody else was telling me there's others in there that
I wonder if Kraven is going to be in the Morbius one. That's a different topic for.
Yeah, that's a different topic. But because originally Kraven was supposed to be in Black Panther, but they Sony wouldn't sign off on it. But he was supposed to be in Black Panther. I don't know if that changed or not, because like that was before the deal changed, and now the deal has changed with Sony, so it's a little bit different than what it was before. So I don't know what they're gonna do with that. I am one thing that I will say, I like the ending with him going back and seeing MJ and Ned, but Ned didn't even flinch. MJ, she had that look like, I know this person, but I'm not sure.
Right. Like I'm supposed to know him, but I don't remember where.
Yeah. And they showed him making his suit. Now I told you this offline Sunday. Look, I know they were getting back to the classic Spider-Man suit and him making his own suit. I miss the red and black. The red
Yeah,
and black to me pops the screen better than the metallic blue and red that he.
more
That's
modern.
metallic blue.
Yeah, yeah. It was very, very bright. I was
Yeah.
even thinking that, like, that's kind of gaudy.
Yeah.
Like,
So if they were gonna do it, I guess what they were trying to do was differentiate it from Toby's and Andrew's, because like Andrew's blue is a little bit different from Toby's blue.
right,
And so they're trying to say, okay, we can't make them have like the same suit they had. So
right.
let's do
Yeah.
it like real bright. But I'm like, nah, I'm still y'all could have kept the red and black. They could have kept the red and black. Because I'm pretty sure he kept the Iron Spider suit. I just don't know where he's gonna store that, but I'm pretty sure he still has it.
Yeah.
The nano,
and it's a nano suit now at this point. So
yeah. So he can just put it on whenever he needs to. So when he needs an extra layer of protection or whatever. But overall, I think they did a very good job. Like I said, the last 30 minutes, it gets hella emotional.
Yeah, it does.
It gets hella emotional. That's why I don't understand why people saying I just thought it was okay. I'm like, all right. When I see people say stuff like that, I'm like, I think some people are lying. I really think some people are lying.
This one was definitely big. I mean, they paid so much homage to, and they gave props to, the other Spider-Mans and everything, and actually put them in the universe, made them a part of the universe and everything. So, like, I think that's really big, especially for those guys, just to get their due diligence and stuff. And like you said, just the way that they have Spider-Man just separate from Peter Parker almost makes me wonder like where they're gonna take the new set of Avengers or who's coming next and how they're gonna put that in there with him and nobody else knowing. So
well, you did bring up something the other night on the podcast. Because the spell is just for Earth, which means Nick Fury ain't on Earth right now. When Nick Fury comes back, because I'm assuming he is going to come back because he has his own Netflix show and he's supposed to be in whatever they're doing with Kang the Conqueror.
Right.
When he comes back, he's going to be like, Peter, what the hell are you doing? Like, so, and Captain Marvel isn't on Earth either. From what I understand, Captain Marvel ain't on Earth, so she's going to be like, Peter, yeah, I know who you are. Come on, we gotta handle this. So
Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor.
Yeah. So I'm guessing they're gonna have to either address that or fix that by the time that other Avengers movie comes out. Because it's supposed to be another Avengers 5 is supposed to come out, I think 2023, I think, is when it's supposed to come out. So
I'm down for it.
Yeah, like because I'm pretty sure their villain's gonna be Kang the Conqueror.
Okay.
So if they're gonna do that, Peter is a part of that. He's a part of that story. So that's gonna be very interesting if that's the route they decide to take. The post-credit scene.
Both of them.
Okay, the second one ain't really a post-credit scene. It's a glorified teaser trailer. It's a glorified teaser trailer for Multiverse of Madness. It's pretty much what it is. But the one with Tom is basically, if you watch Venom, Let There Be Carnage, there is a post-credit scene where they get yanked into our universe. This post-credit scene is them getting yanked back to theirs, but I don't know why they did that.
I don't know, because at first I was thinking, oh man, now that he's in their universe, like that's how they're gonna address Venom.
Yeah, to me that's how he should stay, because of the simple fact that Morbius, Michael Keaton's Vulture, and the guy that's playing Scorpion are in that movie, which means Morbius is in the MCU.
Yeah,
in the Sony MCU collab. So why isn't Venom? You can still say Venom's on the West Coast.
Well, I think too is that like at the very end they show like when he got, and I don't know how it worked. I don't know how it makes sense, but I mean, let's just go with it, I guess. But when he goes back to his universe, they zoom in on the bar table and there's a piece of
Venom,
Venom symbiote. But it's like as I saw it and I was like, oh man, yeah, like he's still definitely gonna be around. I was like, wait a minute, how did Eddie Brock get sent back, but that piece of Venom didn't go back?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. unless unless that wasn't sending him back to his universe, it just sent him back to San Francisco. Because, like I said, it doesn't make sense if Keaton is in Morbius.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Keaton's not in Morbius, okay, you can say different universe, but you can't say that if Keaton is in there. I don't understand how they're gonna make that.
Unless he was one of the people who slipped through. Like,
Yeah, unless that's how they're gonna play it.
It's really kind of shaky, isn't it? Because
yeah,
Keaton's from Amazing, right? So, I mean, unless at the end, like Morbius slipped through and somehow he doesn't go back, like.
Well, but the problem is, unless that scene's at the end, unless that scene from that Morbius trailer is at the end of the Morbius movie,
right?
That's the only way that's going to make sense,
right? That's what I was
because
thinking.
They don't. The one thing they do say before Strange tries to close everything is Strange says it's a line where he says, "I couldn't stop everybody."
Right.
So he says that. So I'm like, okay, if you couldn't stop everybody, that means we'll be able to get some new villains. So
yeah.
I don't.
Well,
I don't
villains
know.
and heroes, because that's how Toby and them came through. So
yeah. So I would. Everybody been wondering how in the world they're going to bring the X-Men and Fantastic Four in. I'm guessing this and Doctor Strange is going to be how they do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it looks like you're going to have to go see Multiverse of Madness to understand the ending of this movie, which is how all these Marvel movies go. If you
right. Next time
on Dragon Ball Z. I mean, So, okay, people, that's going to do it for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion. If you want, please leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, all the other good stuff. But leave a comment. Let us know what you guys thought about Spider-Man No Way Home. Are you looking forward to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? I know I am. Because that teaser trailer was fire. The teaser trailer was fire.
Yeah, it was.
It was fire. But another thing, too, is people, it looks like you're going to have to start watching your Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a choice. You're going to have to start watching them because they're Easter eggs. Yeah, there are Easter eggs all through this. And the Multiverse of Madness, they straight up talk about Westview in the trailer. So, okay, just letting y'all know ahead of time.
And y'all got what ifs on that too.
Yeah, so you got time. You got time to get caught up. But yeah, just leave a comment. Let us know what you guys think. Once again, the podcast will be on hiatus for a couple weeks for Christmas and the New Year. So even if you don't celebrate the holiday season, please be safe with whatever you do. Just be safe out there. Have some fun. Relax. All the other good stuff. Be cheery or not, or mostly cheery. And we'll see you guys in the new year when we come back. Peace, peoples.
Peace.